My full name is Sri Sam Confectioner. The year I was born was in 1946. I was born what today is known as Mumbai, but it used to be called Bombay when I was born, and that's in India. My first childhood memories, I would probably say, are of my summertime resort, and it was known as Udwada. It is still known as Udwada. It is a religious place for all Zoroastrians, and my grandfather or great grandfather had built a bungalow over there, and it's a a two-bedroom bungalow with a complete veranda around it, and it's right next to the ocean. It's about 50 feet from the ocean, and it's my best memories. Best memories with Mom and Dad? Moving to Canada. Not too good ones, because you have to understand, we were very poor. We sold everything we had in India. Dad didn't have much, so we sold it and we came here. At that time, it was the equivalent, we bought in, I think it was $5,000 at that time. And $5,000 was not going as far as any other time. $5,000 don't go too far. But the first few months when we came to Canada were very hard on my mom and dad. He didn't have a job. He had to work with my uncle, and my uncle had just come here a year before us, so he couldn't afford too much. And so it was a living of two families trying to help each other at that time. And then there was a third family, Parsi family, and we, for the first, I'd say about 3 years, these three families help each other every day in everything they can, and we all survived. At the end, we were all happy. I would say working as a bellhop in a hotel when I was 20, 21 years old. And it was one of the best times of my life. I had some problems when I was working there, but regardless of that, one of my best times and the best stories and the best girls I ever knew were from the hotel. Unfortunately, the girls were bad girls, but I remember my dad telling me, stay away from bad girls, because if you do anything with them, your fingers will fall off. And to this day, I'm still afraid of bad girls. Favorite hobbies. One of the favorite hobbies was when myself and two of my friends, or sometimes three, we would go in a car and we would try to pick up girls. It was a lot easier and friendlier in those era. You know, there were lots of girls who were hitchhiking. We would pick them up, drop them off, sometimes go have dinner with them if it was late, or have lunch with them, or go to a show with them, and then they'd go their own ways. But that was one of our hobbies with myself and my two or three other best friends. And I hate to say it, but we used to call it hustling tail. And I'm sure your mom will understand that I mean it in a decent manner. So, getting to cars, that goes a long ways. Actually, when we were living in Bombay, my grandfather had a car, but he used to park it about like a block away, and it was a narrow street, crowded, and the garage was over there. And every day, when the car would leave the garage, it would take the car about, like 3 to 5 minutes by the time it came to the house, to the front door of the house. And the car would beep its horn. And I would go to my mom and dad, like at that time I was maybe about 7 or 8 years old. I would say, "Oh, Mota Papa car's coming, Mota Papa's car's coming." And, they would look out the door and they'd just not pay attention to me, saying, "Next time listen properly before you do, say things like that." And sure enough, within a minute or two, the car would be there. And that's how my car love came to be, because the chauffeur who used to drive my grandfather's car used to tell me a lot about cars, and I would sit next to him and I would steer the car. This is in Bombay in rush hour. I mean, you shouldn't be doing this, but I did it. And from there on, I loved it. I said, wow, I'm driving a car. I'm 8 or 7 years old. I know at 10 years old, I was sitting on Dad's lap driving Grandpa's car. So, I mean, you don't do things like that nowadays because it's dangerous. But in those days, it was accepted. However, the adults were more practical. They would see, like if the road's clear enough for me to drive, and hence I drove. And I remember once in Bombay, this was, I guess, 1958, because there was a 1958 Chevrolet, a blue-colored Chevrolet Bel Air, that came and parked next to where my grandfather's car used to park all the time. So I ran downstairs, didn't tell Mom and Dad that I'm going down to see the car. And so I went to see the car. I'm looking around the car, and Mom and Dad are in a panic as to where I am. So finally, somebody from my grandfather's house noticed me down in the car and says to my mom, "He's right over there." So then I had to look up, and as soon as I saw my mom's face, I knew I was in problems. I knew it. And sure enough, got a lecture as to what to do next time around. But that didn't stop me when I saw decent cars. In Bombay, on Marine Drive in the nighttime, there used to be loads of all these old cars driving up and down the boulevard. And I used to be in my heyday. I used to love it. I couldn't wait to sort of, sit in one of those cars and say, wow, I just sat in this car, or I just drove this car. And Manuel, our chauffeur, who used to let me drive the car, he would have friends who used to drive other cars, right? So he would say, take Zuri Baba and take him for a drive. So then I'd sit next to him and drive for a couple of seconds. I know Homie Uncle, my mom's brother. He used to have a cabin in Aksa, which was like about an hour's drive from Bombay. And I remember when we were in Homie Uncle's car when I was a Todd, I guess again 10 or 8 years old, and Homie Uncle used to let me steer his car to Aksa. And to me that was a great joy, because other kids couldn't do it. I could do it because I loved it, and they knew that I liked it. So it was enjoyable. My first car was a 1957 Mercury Monterey, I think. It was a red car with gold stripes on the side, and the only reason I bought it was I had two of my friends with me when we checked that car out. And the only reason I liked that car was because it had a push-button radio where if you push the button, the searcher would go and find a station. And that's the only reason. And I remember when Ian and Leon were with me when we were buying a car, it was at a cheap car lot on 19th and Main in Vancouver. And we were sitting there, and the guy wanted $750 for a car. I said, no, I'll give you $250. And then, he says, well, I'll have to go talk to the manager. Of course, those were the days when they talked to the managers, just bullshitting, doing nothing. And then he's in there, Leon starts saying, that car's not too bad. So both Ian and I would go, shh, shh, quiet, quiet. You don't want them to know that we like this car. And then all of a sudden Leon goes, yeah, it's not a very good car. And so finally the guy comes back, not with my 250 order. He says, we can accept 255. So I says, okay, it's a deal. So we walked out of there, drove that car out for $255. This was in what was this? 66. In 1966, yeah. I would probably say the 1971 429 Mustang Cobra Jet. That was one hell of a car. It had a high rear end ratio, a 3.9 rear end ratio. I never lost a race off the line with that car. I mean, from a starting point, I never lost a race. I lost a race once on a standing roll start because there was a 1976 Chevelle with, he was running gas, and so we were racing on Marine Drive, on Southwest Marine Drive, and all of a sudden, the guy's gas opens up and he goes. And I didn't know that until then a couple of days later when my friend at work says, hey, so you're racing a 76 Chevelle last Saturday, huh? And I goes, how did you know? He said, he's a friend of mine in our Chevelle club, and he runs gas. So I said, okay, no wonder I lost. But that was one of my favorite cars. That was like a brute force car. It was like in your face, come get me. The other car I liked was a very subtle car. It was a Buick Grand National, Regal Grand National, and that was a sort of, like they said, it was a regal car, nice and long, fluid car, but it had a very good engine in it, a fast engine in it. They only made those cars for about 4 or 5 years, and then they stopped them. But to this day, I wish I still had it. Because there was one of those cars where people saw you and they sort of, looked at you like, and oh wow, and then they'd go like this to spin your wheels. No, I'm not going to spin my wheels, buddy, just to satisfy your greed. And those are the two cars I would say were my favorite cars. There were other cars that were actually very nice. People said, oh, you should have never bought this car or this car. One of the cars I had was a 1974 Chevrolet Vega, and that was in 1976. And I had one of the best times in it because Mom and I drove in that car all the way down to San Diego and back up in the summer of, 1985, or 75, pardon me. And we drove all the way down and came back up, and like everybody was scared that that car was going to break down on me. It went perfect. Of course, every 400 miles, you had to put in a quart of oil because it took a lot of oil. But that's par for the course, it still went on going. So, but we went to Las Vegas in that without air conditioning. And what happened was one of the guys at the gas station, I think, he says, here. He says, here's a bucket of ice. And then he says, put this fan over here, attach it to your window. So we had the fan going, blowing the air from the bucket of ice into my face and Mom's face. And that's how we went from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Swinger was my favorite car. Swinger was my favorite, but then like I had lots of favorite cars. The Swinger I liked because I used to race that car the most. That's the most I raced that car. Every traffic light or something like that, I would race cars that would come up against me. Once I was with a friend of mine, Adrian, who lives in Alberta, and we went to Alberta to see his parents, and one of his buddies over there had a 426 Hemi Dodge. And as soon as we drove into town, the news was out that, hey, this guy's here from Vancouver in a hot car. So the word was out that he wanted to race me. And the thing was, Adrian says, such and such, I forget the guy's name, he's looking for you. I said, fine, he can come find me. I'm not going to go find him. If he wants to race me, let him come race me. So I have an advantage, right? And so finally, he ends up with his car in front of me on Highway 3 near Burdett, Alberta. And so as we're going towards Burdett, because Adrian's friend lived there, and the Dodge Hemi is in front of me. And I'm just tailing him slowly, slowly, slowly. And I keep on going slower, so he slows down. And I keep on going slower again, so he slows down. And then all of a sudden, boom, I pulled out. And I was, like ahead of him. And him and his girlfriend were sitting there and just looking at us to see, what's he doing here, kind of thing. And we were neck and neck with him up to about 80 miles an hour. 80 miles an hour. Finally, his big cubes catch up, and he pulled away. But like Adrian says, the guy was sweating blood. But that car was unbelievable. I didn't care what happened to that Dodge. I just raced anything and everything. And I had a list of who I beat, who beat me, and who we were even with. And I think Dad saw that list, and he says, you shouldn't have this list. You shouldn't have this list. But those were the days you raced on the streets with care. You didn't take too many chances. There was one time I know it was stupid. I was going down Broadway, going towards the UBC from Cambie, we were on Cambie stoplight, going towards the UBC. And Ian and I were in my Swinger. There was a Chevelle next to me, a 396 Chevelle next to me on this side, and a 396 Chevelle on me on this side. And as soon as the light turned, boom, all three went. And then all of a sudden, we heard cop cars like a block away, kind of wah, wah, wah. So this guy went that way, this guy went that way, I went straight. They never caught us. We just put the metal to the pedal kind of thing and just went. Didn't slow down. Once I was on Broadway, and I was going towards UBC because Ian used to work at John's Pizzarama near McDonald and Broadway. So I was going there. And so what happened was, I'm going this way, but I'm racing this car. And I knew there was a police car, like a block away from me, because they can always hear you driving, right? And we're racing like this, and then I hear the cop car. So that guy goes off to the right. I go off to the left. I quickly go around the block and into John Pizzarama's parking lot. I park and run inside, and I tell Ian, quick, give me half a beer and half a slice of pizza. So, so I'm sitting down there with a half a beer and half a slice of pizza. The cop sort of looks around. He knows I'm there. He sees me, and he says nothing because he knows that, okay, the evidence is that, hey, I've been here long enough. Here's the pizza, and so he left. But that's one of the times I shouldn't have done something stupid. Another time was when I was coming. Ian used to live out in West 36th Avenue, up near Dunbar and 36th. And Ian and I were coming down Dunbar Street, and Dunbar used to come down and then turn and come into Alma. And when we were coming down, I was racing a Mercury Cougar. And we were coming down this road, and people can hear us a block away that these two cars are coming because the mufflers are just screaming, right? And I saw these two hippies in front of me, about over half a block away, crossing the street. And they were strolling like this. And as soon as they heard these two cars coming around the corner with the exhaust, they just both ran. The guy didn't care where his girlfriend went, he just ran. And I thought, my God, what a kind of guy is he that he doesn't even look after his girlfriend. So, first time I met Mom was on her 21st birthday. There was a birthday party for her at her place. And I wasn't going with anybody. And at Mom's place, Mom was going with a guy called Ray. And Ray had his sister, Gwen, who came to that birthday party. And all of a sudden, I ended up with Gwen, and Uncle Leon, Leon and Donna were just going out, and they were getting married that summer. And so then after meeting Gwen, it ended up that Gwen had to go to Calgary for her job. And I went to Calgary a couple of times, but somehow or the other, I knew that it's not going to go too far, because anytime somebody goes away someplace, your relationship with them changes. And at that time, there was a girl that I depended on girl advice, Sherry Williams. And I used to talk to Sherry. I said, well, Sherry, Gwen's going away to Calgary. And Sherry said, well, Zuri, she's probably not too interested in you if she's going to go over there. So you might as well just, look around, look for somebody else. And in looking around, Mom stopped going out with Ray, who's a real jackass. But then all my boyfriends think that. And Ray was such a jackass that he was at the wedding, at Donna and Leon's wedding, and he would be emptying wine glasses of other people, if there was a little bit of wine left in it. And so Mom got really disgusted with him. So Mom ended up going with Ian for a while, okay? And then after a while, Ian was going with, I think, Lorraine, and so Ian dumped Mom, and Mom came crying to me, kind of thing. So we started going together. And it was just a friendly kind of thing that we started going together. And we, one of our first dates was we drove to Hope to get an ice cream cone. So, and that's how slowly the relationship evolved. It wasn't like love at first sight, or I can't do without you. I know, when Mom had gone to Holland, I went out with other girls. So, it's a natural, you're going out, we just started going together, and you're going to Holland to see your family. Okay, fine. But, I'm not going to stay here doing nothing. I'm a guy. With Zarina, the day she was born, it is a miracle. My first child, you know, I didn't know what to do. We brought her home from the hospital. Mom put her on the dresser, and then Mom says, "Now what do I do?" Well, I don't know. you know, so I would like so then like if there's any question like that, I would phone my mom. Mom, what do I do? So Mom would say, "Well, do this, do that, do that." We couldn't phone your maternal grandmother, like your mom's mom, because they were in Quesnel, and that was long distance calls. You can't keep on calling them, but that's what it was with her, a miracle, and that's how I saw it. She, I hate to say this, but quite often I favored her over you. Sorry.
I was a worse child than Zarina, so I can't blame you for that. I don't hold it against
Oh,
you, but I don't blame
but-
you for that.
But things change.
It's your first child.
Yeah, it's my first child. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're up against. And I was unemployed at that point. Okay? So, I mean, finally, you get the job and get going and things like that. But yeah, I would say she is a miracle. My best memory with you is in a picture of me fixing a bicycle for you at where we used to live in Moore Park. You had a little a toy bicycle. It was a used bicycle I bought for you, and it needed lots of work. And I was fixing it, and you were looking over it like you were instructing me. Yeah, Dad, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And there's a picture of that, and we showed that picture on your wedding day. And that's one of my favorite pictures of you. Taking that drive to Toronto in 1994. We started that 1 month trip. I get in the car, and what I had done was wash the car just before we left. And I guess the brakes hadn't dried up. The water on the brakes hadn't dried up. And as soon as I backed the car out, the car goes like a dying cat. And I go, oh my God, what's wrong with this car? I'm going to be driving this thing for 2,000 miles this way and back. And then like we all get in the car, and I told Mom, I said, no, we can't go. This car's not going anywhere. Like I can't drive it. And Mom says, shut up and drive the car. Let's get going. And we started going. As we started going, you didn't feel well in the car, and I'm going hyper, like, what am I doing with a sick child in the car that doesn't run? Where are we going? But Mom pulled us through, like she always does. She always does. But one of the good parts of that trip, we stopped in Cranbrook, in a small town, Cranbrook, and you guys got out of the car, you went into the hotel room, and all of a sudden, you go into the washroom, and you see the lids down and the covers down, and it's got a paper strip around it. And both of you came running out, we got brand new washrooms, we got brand new washrooms. Oh my God, Mom and I look and said, boy, these kids haven't been far, have they? I guess I would probably say we're a small company called Syncom Systems. It was just a two-man shop in Vancouver, I mean, I went from a big company, ICBC, to a small company called Syncom Systems, who sold database products, and I was one of the Vancouver representatives with another guy called Jim Emler. And the two of us, we would be looking after like the Western Canada market. And the year I started on that day in that company, the Christmas holiday was a fact where the head office in Toronto, there was a head office in Toronto, Canadian head office, but the world head office was in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the word was from Cincinnati that everybody gets together at the Toronto office. So lots of people from Ohio came to Toronto, Vancouver came to Toronto. There was a couple of guys from work at Montreal who came to Toronto, and the boss had set up a very unusual thing. It was if you were married, you got a cabin. If you were single, you got an apartment. And Mom and I were just married. Zarina was pregnant. Zarina was on the way, about 2 months away. And so, Syncom paid for our ticket on Friday evening to fly out of Vancouver and go to Muskogee in Ontario. Fly from Vancouver Airport to Toronto Airport. Toronto Airport, there was about 40 of us in a bus who were all driven up to Muskogee, given our cabins for 2 days. And then on Sunday again, we came down and flew out from Toronto. We came to Vancouver. People went to Ontario or Montreal, to Ohio. And it was one of the best Christmas parties you ever had. One of the most memorable. I mean, what company flies you from here to there for a weekend and flies you back? I mean, I was only working there for about 8 months at that time. But the atmosphere was all friendly. Nothing was, like drinks were flowing in the bus like you couldn't believe. And some of the jokes were really nice. I still remember one. I mean, I'm going to, over 40 years ago. There was this joke this one girl said, she said there was this African tribe who would run around, like they were short tribes, they were shorter in the grass, and the whole the group of a tribe would run around and go, they were called the Fukavi tribes, okay? So they would run around here and there, and all of a sudden they'd stop, and the boss would say, "Where the Fukavi? Where the Fukavi?" Okay? And I still remember that joke. It's as corny as hell, but it's still a good joke. I still remember the lady who said that joke. Her name was Karen. She was in the Syncom office in Toronto. But they were all pie-eyed, so you didn't care.
So what happened with that company? How come you left it, and where did you go after?
Oh, where did I go? Well, there's a very nice company. They had a branch office in San Francisco. They were shutting down the Vancouver office. All right? So they shut down the Vancouver office, and I felt, oh, hell with it now, what I'm going to do. So then I applied in Toronto at the Bank of Nova Scotia. I mean, again, I'm going from a company like this to a company like that, okay? And where there were only, in Vancouver, there were only 2 people in this thing. And I'm joining a company with 600, computer people. And again, that is a good company. Bank of Nova Scotia is a company. So I joined Bank of Nova Scotia. When I joined Bank of Nova Scotia and I was in Toronto, one day we went for a wedding for one of the Syncom guys. Steve D'Souza was getting married, and I was invited to his wedding. and I went to his wedding. And at the wedding, the old Syncon boys were there. And he goes, "So how come you're working for the Bank of Nova Scotia?" And I said, "Well, I thought you guys might want me in San Francisco." And he said, "We were waiting for you to ask." And who is it that said that? Oh, God, I forget his name. The main, Mike. Yeah, Mike. He was one of the major district managers. He says, "We were waiting for you to ask." I still remember those words. So, what it means is, Philip, you want something in life, ask for it. Okay? And I don't know where I would have gone from that point on. It would have been in San Francisco, and retired there today, or someplace else. But they wanted me either in San Francisco or in head office in Cincinnati. I didn't want Cincinnati, too much snow. So, but that's when Mike said, "We were waiting for you to ask." See how I remember those damn lines yet?
Was that before or after Toronto?
While I was in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
At the wedding.
Okay.
Yeah. And all the old Syncom boys were there and
Yeah.
things like that.
That's right, you said that. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
but geez, that just floored me.
Yeah.
That really floored me. Like, how stupid was I not to ask? So this is what I'm saying. You want something in life?
You ask.
Health issue. My God, Philip. I was doing great in health. I was rarely sick at work. After I retired, 2 years after I retired, I ended up getting heart issues. So I had open heart surgery. Year after that, I ended up with leukemia. Few years after that, I ended up with kidney stone problems. And year after that, it's just going on and on. And today, I got water in my lungs, which is depreciating slowly, but it has hurt me a lot. It has hurt me a lot. I would much rather go open heart surgery again. That was the easiest one. So if you can understand that, you know how my health's gone down. Nothing I can do. In one word, no.
Why?
No. I've lived a good life, an honest life, a respectable life. I'm not going to be afraid to say that I'm going to die. If God strikes me dead now, I'm willing to go. But no, never be afraid to die, because it's only cowards who are afraid. What was that? There was a statement. Wise men fall from their horses. Brave men get up and ride again. Would I have done differently?
It could be anything. It doesn't have to be.
I would not have ridden Uncle Ron's three-wheel scooter with no brakes.
Tell that story.
That was a story that it's funny because after Mom and I were married, we were on our first anniversary. Mom says, "Well, what do you want to do for holidays?" And I thought, well, it would be nice of me if I went up to Quesnel and Prince George to see her mom and dad and her brother. So we drove up there, and it wasn't even, we haven't even had our first anniversary. It was only 8 months, from November to 10 months since we got married. And we went to Cornell, had a good time in Cornell, because if you call having a good time with her mother, yeah. But no, I still respected her mother, okay? I may not have liked her, but I still respected her. And so after Cornell, we said, okay, well, let's go up to Prince George. What is it, about another 2 or 3 hours drive? So we went there, and so that's the first day, blah, blah, blah. The second day comes around, and we're sitting in the kitchen, and I see Sonia was looking at that bike outside, and so so Sonia says, "Uncle Zuri, can we go ride that bike?" And I figured, okay, it's sitting there. It's like a three-wheeler bike. I go there. Carol's there in the kitchen, listening to this, and Carol doesn't say anything. So we go out, and I get onto the bike. Sonia gets in front of me. I sort of start her up and just go around the little area that they had, and then all of a sudden, the bike starts picking up speed because I guess I'm accelerating with my hand. And I'm saying, oh shit, where are we going? So I see the runway, from their house going down to the road. So I take that road, and the bike's going faster and faster, and then it goes into the hedge. And as it goes into the hedge, I hear this snap, and I figured, oh, okay, we broke a tree branch. So then Sonia gets off the bike. I try to get off the bike, except my leg's dangling, okay? And so I tell Sonia, who's 3 years old at the time, I said, Sonia, go get Antigone right now. Go get Antigone. We're halfway down the thing, And so Mom comes running down, Carol comes running down, and they see, like this leg is just dangling from here. And so Carol said something about let's get an ambulance, and I says, just let's get in a car and go, because the ambulance is out of territory for them at that time. It wouldn't come there. So Mom, got me, and she starts driving my car, and I'm in the front. I'm sitting like this, holding onto the leg, and Mom's driving. And then we come to a stop sign. There's no cars, but it's a red light. And I got mad at Mom. I said, for God's sakes, go through. But it's a red light. And finally, Mom went through the thing. And the thing was, when we went to the hospital, Mom opened the door so, the medics could just carry me out. Oh, sorry, no, we cannot carry you in. You've got to sit in this chair by yourself, and then we'll roll you in. So I have to hop along, sit in their damn chair, the emergency chair. Then they roll me in. But they wouldn't lift me up because of, insurance issues. That's how crazy our medical system is at times. No common sense. No common sense. I was not an asshole. Okay? I may have done some stupid stunts. Yeah. But I survived. But by and large, how I survived is because of prayers. I had a lot of faith in them. Still do, mind you, right now. But I still do have faith in prayers. And like I always tell you guys, that I will always love you. I may not like you at times, but I'll always love you. Keep that in mind.